It's all covered in today's China Truths.
This is the hidden face of reality. Hospitals, classrooms, even the ceilings above our heads, nothing is safe. What we see isn't just negligence, it's criminal. Film it, and you risk arrest. Behind the glittering slogans of progress lies a terrifying truth. China's grand construction boom is nothing but smoke and mirrors. What should be homes, schools, and roads are in fact elaborate death traps. And the so-called giants of the industry? Masters of deception. Today, we pull back the curtain to show how this deadly illusion is engineered. Watch closely. Here, workers skip bolts when connecting massive steel columns to the floor. No drilling, no screws, just metal resting in place. Columns the size of trees, meant to hold entire floors, standing unsecured. A single tremor could send everything crashing. And where connections do exist, the scam runs just as deep. In another video, a worker shows how even welding can be faked. Glue between steel pipes, sprayed with shiny nickel plating. A bond that should be molten steel becomes nothing more than cosmetic powder. From the skeleton of a building to the walls themselves, it's all a performance. One repairman exposes what hides beneath a staircase wall, not brick, not concrete, just foam wrapped in plaster. He pushes a screwdriver straight through. Kick the wall, and the entire frame shudders like cardboard. In Chengdu, river railings, supposedly for public safety, were found filled with foam. The barriers protecting lives? Hollow props. If that sounds shocking, even the simplest materials are counterfeited. A man holds up 2 red bricks. Watch carefully. These are supposed to build houses, but inside? He cracks them open. Crumbly lime and filler. All bricks are like this, he warns. Even the cheapest, most basic unit of construction is a lie. Another woman shows a fresh brick that disintegrates in her hands, gasping, "They're like tofu. All of them, like tofu." The fraud reaches its cruelest point with items designed to save lives. A man picks up a fire extinguisher, pours it out, and reveals it's nothing but random powder. In another clip, a new extinguisher is tested on a small flame. The spray is weak, useless. It fails to kill the fire. When the tools of survival are fake, what chance is left? And yet the greatest betrayal happens where safety should be absolute. Hospitals. In Guangzhou, a ceiling collapsed in a patient ward, raining concrete on an elderly man already suffering from a cerebral hemorrhage. The hospital's cold response only fueled outrage online. "They cared more about the ceiling than the patient," one netizen wrote. Another asked bitterly, "Isn't the illness enough suffering? Why must the ceiling fall too?" But it wasn't just Guangzhou. In Chaozhou, the hospital lobby ceiling came crashing down on patients collecting medicine, injuring 4. In Guilin, the outpatient ceiling caved in, sparking public fury. "Even hospitals are tofu projects," one commenter wrote. "How much money have they pocketed while cutting corners?" In Lingkou, a patient narrowly escaped death after the ceiling nearly collapsed while he went to the bathroom. He posted the chilling words, "I almost lost my life in Lingkou People's Hospital." Schools are no safer. In Fuzhou, the ceiling of a classroom collapsed and injured a student. Officials insisted the child wasn't in danger, but parents were left terrified. Their children are literally studying beneath crumbling roofs. And if hospitals and schools aren't safe, what about homes? One home security camera captured the unthinkable. 2 little girls playing on a sofa when suddenly, the entire ceiling caved in. Dust filled the room. By sheer luck, they survived. A father posted footage of his destroyed bedroom with disbelief. "I was just sleeping. Why did my ceiling collapse?" Even temporary shelters betray trust. In Guangzhou, hotel guests were hospitalized when their ceiling fell overnight. Whether in hospitals, schools, homes, or hotels, the message is clear: there is no safe space. Everywhere, the illusion of stability is collapsing, sometimes literally right above people's heads. China's code of silence, suppressing whistleblowers, targeting journalists. Whether you're sitting at a desk or relaxing on a sofa, the danger is the same. In China, Tofu dreg construction has turned the most basic assumption, that the roof above you will hold, into a gamble. Fear is no longer an exception. It's built directly into the walls. Across Chinese cities, the ground itself is betraying people. In Kunming, what began as a normal day at a used car market erupted into chaos. Witnesses watched in horror as the ground tilted, then disappeared, swallowing stands and cars into a yawning pit. "It felt like a disaster movie," one man said. That same day in Fuyang, a sinkhole tore open a busy road, toppling an SUV into the void. Rescue teams scrambled to haul survivors out with cranes. But the nightmare turned deadly in Shenzhen. At a railway site, workers had warned for weeks about tremors underground. Then, without warning, the earth split open with a thunderous crack. A giant sinkhole consumed part of a 7-lane road, collapsing a nearby building and dragging 13 people, engineers, laborers, managers, down into the abyss. This was no accident. It was the inevitable outcome of systemic fraud. From relocation housing in Beijing that collapsed after one rainfall to sinking towers in Zhenjiang's Country Garden project, the story repeats: foundations built on lies. Even the nation's arteries, its highways and bridges, are breaking apart. On May 1, 2024, a section of the Meizhou-Dabu Expressway in Guangdong crumbled, hurling 23 vehicles into the abyss and killing 52 people. Officials rushed to label it a natural disaster, but the mangled wreckage told a different story: criminal negligence. In Jingzhou, a brand-new bridge leaned sideways before it had even opened. Authorities hid behind technical jargon, foundation settlement, to mask the fact it had been doomed from the start. In Chuzhou, a pristine highway cracked and sank before the first car even touched its surface. The whistleblower who filmed it was forced to delete the video. At intersections, the ground simply gives way. In Shucheng, 2 cars were swallowed in seconds. Officials brushed it off with a report of minor injuries. Even festivals are not spared. At Manjuli's beer celebration, a massive scaffold collapsed onto the crowd during bad weather, killing 2 and injuring several more. Leisure, too, is poisoned by the same careless shortcuts. From roads to bridges, from public squares to towering apartments, China's infrastructure is rotting from within. What should symbolize strength has become a testament to corruption. These aren't accidents, they're crimes. And like every criminal empire, this one is shielded by silence, enforced not only by corporations, but by the state itself. Inside this system, truth-tellers risk everything. On the Chengdu-Zigong high-speed railway, Worker Chi exposed blatant fraud: steel bars cut 40-50 centimeters shorter than blueprints, foundations poured with less concrete, and pile caps deliberately thinned to save money. His reports were ignored by both the Railway Bureau and supervisors. When he went public with his name, nothing changed. When he turned to the media, the project manager's response was chilling. If he speaks out, he'll bear the consequences. Outsiders must never know. Silence above all else. When journalists try to break that silence, the retaliation is violent. 2 Xinhua reporters investigating defective materials on another railway line were beaten, detained, and had their phones seized by employees of a state-owned bureau. 1 bled from the assault. Later, the company sacrificed 5 low-level staff to calm public outrage, but the real issue, the lethal materials, was buried. Ordinary citizens fare no better. When homeowners in Chongqing protested at a sales office, police arrived, not to investigate, but to threaten. One officer barked, "Turn off your cameras or you'll be arrested." Their demand was not safety, but obedience. And this rot does not stop at China's borders. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, the CCP exports not just bridges and buildings, it exports collapse. In Serbia, the roof of the newly built Novi Sad railway station crumbled after only 3 years, killing at least 14. In Kenya, the Sigiri Bridge built by a Chinese state firm collapsed before its ribbon cutting, injuring 27. In Thailand, a government office constructed by a Chinese company fell during an earthquake. The company's first move was not to help victims, but to erase all promotional material online and scrub social media clean. That is the final piece of the puzzle. China isn't just exporting shoddy concrete and weak steel, it's exporting censorship, intimidation, and the machinery of silence. Wherever these projects land, so does the cover-up. And so, the Belt and Road is not a gift of progress, it is a trail of destruction, built on lies, corruption, and contempt for human life, stretching across the globe.
When Moscow finally pulled the plug on Chinese trucks, the decision sent shockwaves through both Russian businesses and Beijing's auto industry. Complaints had been piling up for months: brake failures, deafening noise, flimsy seat belts. For many Russian buyers, the so-called honeymoon with cheap Chinese imports was over. Take the story of the Alexandrovsk Commercial Association. In September 2024, the small transport firm proudly purchased a façade manipulator truck, hoping to cut costs. But after just 3 months and barely 10,000 kilometers on the road, the gearbox collapsed. To make matters worse, the dealer refused to cover repairs under warranty. The desperate owner spent another 3 months hunting for parts, ultimately paying nearly 8 million rubles, around $100,000, for the fix. The nightmare didn't stop there. By July 2025, yet another FOU truck broke down after 200,000 kilometers, this time demanding a 2 million ruble engine swap. Frustrated and humiliated, the owner shared his ordeal online, sparking a wave of sympathy and a storm of criticism aimed at China's tofu-dragged trucks, infamous for their poor quality. Few imagined such stories could rattle Russia's no-limits friendship with China. Yet in a stunning reversal, Putin's government announced a sweeping ban on Chinese trucks this summer. On July 30th, 2025, Rosstandart, the Russian agency in charge of vehicle safety, revoked the type approvals for major Chinese brands, including Dongfeng, Foton, FAW, and Sinoo Truck. Inspectors found glaring violations during surprise audits, concluding that the defects were so severe they posed a direct threat to public safety. The suspended models included Dongfeng DFH4180, Foton BJ4189, and M4L, FAWC A4250, and CA4180, as well as Sinotruk ZZHS. Even trucks already approved in other Eurasian Economic Union countries weren't spared. Dongfeng DFH 52000B, Foton H5, and FAW JH6B 8X4 and all made the blacklist. Overnight, these vehicles were barred from Russia's roads. The problems uncovered were serious. Investigators flagged faulty brakes, dangerous noise levels, missing emergency systems like EIR-AGL, ONASS, and poor safety labeling. On top of that came violations ranging from excessive emissions and non-compliance with radiation standards to weak seatbelt fittings, poorly designed seats and headrests, and missing underrun protection. Each flaw increased the risk not only to drivers, but also to pedestrians and other road users. Rosstandart responded with tough orders. Manufacturers must recall every defective truck already on the road, pull unsold vehicles from the market, and resolve every violation, or face stiff penalties. The move followed an earlier warning in February 2025, when Trade Minister Anton Alekhanov sounded the alarm about defects in several Chinese brands, hinting that stricter rules and revoked certifications might be coming. Behind the headlines lies a deeper issue. While Russian operators groan under the cost of constant repairs, China has been cashing in. Business Insider reported that Chinese automakers sold over 1 million vehicles in Russia in 2024, a 7-fold jump from the year before. According to OSW, Chinese brands captured nearly 60% of passenger car sales and 65% of truck sales that year, compared to barely 2% and 1% back in 2019. By flooding Russia with low-priced vehicles, Beijing filled the gap left by Western manufacturers, but treated the country as nothing more than a dumping ground for imports. A 2024 Statista chart makes the scale clear. Sinotruk alone sold almost 20,000 trucks, while Russia's own KAMAZ struggled at 17,000. That reversal has left domestic producers fuming, watching their market shrink under the weight of China's bargain basement strategy. Now, with safety concerns forcing a government crackdown, Russia's uneasy dependence on Chinese vehicles has erupted into a full-blown crisis. 2025 has turned into a nightmare year for Russia's truck industry. According to Autostat, only 22,000 heavy-duty trucks were sold in the first half of the year. But the real shock was this. Chinese brands like Sinotruk, Shackman, and FOD grabbed nearly 37% of the market, overtaking Kamaz, Russia's pride, which was left with just 31%. Even worse, the overall market collapsed by almost 56% compared to last year.
Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We will keep reporting on the COVID surge in China, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos. And thank you for tuning in.